We wanted to head to Texas because this is a very strange mishap that happened. This is in Austin, Texas, at the Austin, Texas airport. So here's what's going on. So on Monday at the airport, U.S. Representative Greg Casar and U.S. Senator John Cornyn, as a Republican senator, he arrived to give Whataburger to TSA agents there. Well, the Democrat and Republican kind of got into it. So there is this exchange on camera. So let's take a look at it.
So, enjoy, congratulations on the Oscar.
Well, you know, the only acting award should go to Senator Cornyn, who has refused to fund TSA. Just last week, the Democrats in the Senate and the House offered a bill to fully fund TSA, and Senator Cornyn and the Republicans blocked it. So I'm kind of confused about why Senator Cornyn would be here having a press conference at the airport about funding TSA when it's him who has blocked the funding.
Congressman, you know that's not true.
Oh, no,
the
don't.
Democrats have blocked it.
Hold on. No, Rudy, no. Rudy, no. Rudy, I'm there. I'm there in the building.
Yeah.
ICE funding, Democrats have voted against. Then the Democrats brought forward a bill to fund TSA, and the Republicans blocked it. That's the truth. There's only one truth. No matter what Donald Trump wants to do. No, there's one truth. One truth. The bill to fund TSA was rejected by the Republicans. Rudy is making a point, as the senator does, that there was a bill to push ICE funding forward without reforms and TSA in it. And we said, no, we're not going to pass this ICE funding until we get reforms. Let's just fund TSA. And Senator Cornyn and the Republicans said no. They could go tomorrow to Washington, D.C. right now. They could go straight to Washington, D.C. and join with me to fully fund TSA. Senator Cornyn should put his money where his mouth is. Hey, Senator. Senator, I was hoping that we
Why don't you tell your Democrats to vote to pay these poor
Let's do it. Let's do it.
No,
why don't you
do it?
No, we don't you don't have to yell at me. You don't have to yell at me. Let's go. Let's talk for a second, Senator. There's a bipartisan bill to fund just the TSA. Can we do that together?
Not acceptable.
Not acceptable to fund just the TSA.
How about all the terrorist attacks like we see down on 6th Street? You want those to continue? These people are keeping us safe. Tell the Democrats to vote for funding the DHS.
Let's talk about each one. Would you fund the TSA with me? No? Sounds like instead of bringing people burgers, he should bring them their paychecks, which involves funding TSA. He's refused to fund TSA, so he's bringing them burgers. He's over here talking about funding ICE, but when I asked him about funding TSA, he said he wouldn't fund TSA. That was helpful, y'all. But it sounds like, you guys should ask him, it sounds like he won't fund TSA. It sounds to me, I mean, you guys got the exchange on camera. Yeah. I asked him if he'd fund TSA, and he started talking to me about funding ICE. Well, look, he and I have a disagreement about funding ICE. That's okay. The senator and I know each other. We take this flight together. He usually is an honest guy, but he's out here saying he's trying to fund TSA when he just told me out there he's trying to fund ICE. Why is he acting different? I think it's because he's trying to out Ken Paxton. And that's really unfortunate that he's in this tough runoff election. But if we are talking about funding TSA, you just saw it. I said, we're both getting on the same plane to Washington. Let's agree to just fund TSA together. Let's agree to fund the Coast Guard together. And he said, no, he wants to fund ICE, the entire Department of Homeland Security. I've said, let's fund the Coast Guard, let's fund cybersecurity, let's fund TSA, and let's have a separate conversation about ICE and CBP because we disagree.
So Democrats are going to stop all funding for Homeland Security unless ICE is taken out?
No. The Democrats offered a bill just last week to fund TSA. Senator Cornyn said no. The Democrats offered a bill to fund the Coast Guard. Senator Cornyn said no. They are insisting on ramming through billions in ICE funding, and they're holding the TSA officers hostage. So he should put his money where his mouth is, and instead of showing up with burgers, get on the plane and vote to fund their paychecks. It's that simple. I'm not ashamed of my position. I can answer any of your questions. I'm not ashamed of my position, which is fund TSA, fund the Coast Guard. But you know what? Before I give billions more to ICE, who already have billions and billions of dollars, we should get the masks off and make them follow warrant requirements. I'm comfortable with that position, but he refuses to answer questions here because he's over here trying to tell you he's trying to fund TSA when he's the guy who just blocked funding for TSA last week.
Well, and the Republicans are continue to blame Democrats for stalling the Homeland Security bill, which has been creating these lines. They're going to blame Democrats over and over again.
Right, the question is whether or not, and I appreciate folks in the media asking them the question, because Democrats in the House and the Senate have said, TSA we don't got a problem with. Let's fund it. Why would he say no? Ask yourselves why you would say no. The only reason no, when you used to have one of the moderate senators from Texas, the only reason he's doing this extreme stuff and making things up and sprinting off is because he's trying to out Ken Paxton, and that's really unfortunate.
Do you think there's any realistic reforms that both Democrats and Republicans can agree on to get this shutdown stuff?
Look, I've gone and talked to people all over Texas, to Republican voters, and Republican voters, many of them agree with me, it doesn't make sense for ICE officers to wear masks and not have badges. There's lots of things that Democratic Texans and Republican Texans agree on. I just can't get Republican senators like John Cornyn to ask for basic reforms from the guy who they're trying to get endorsement from, Donald Trump. That's the sad thing it all comes down to. I think in these guys' hearts, they know they want to take the masks off and have these guys follow the Constitution and get warrants. But he's bootlicking so hard to get Donald Trump's endorsement that he's willing to go to any length, no matter how degrading it is. And to me, that is really sad from the senator who we used to think of as a little more independent, a little bit more Texas tough. All right, guys, anything else? I mean, guys, check the stuff on the floor. It is clear as day which party has offered to fund TSA and which hasn't. This is not, like Rudy said, a two alternative truths world here still, guys. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so very heated exchange there. You can see lots of emotions behind that. This is what John Cornyn had to say.
Ready to roll?
Rolling.
Let me switch out here. Sorry. Ready? Well, good morning. I'm John Cornyn here at Austin-Bergstrom Airport, where they will process roughly 35,000 people leaving today. Obviously a confluence of spring break, South by, and just people enjoying their ability to travel safely in our country. Unfortunately, what's happening in Washington, D.C. now, thanks to Chuck Schumer, is an absolute disgrace. They've taken the wrong hostage. They've decided not to pay the men and women that are keeping us safe in our airports and in our skies in order to try to extract some political advantage. These people don't have anything to say about who gets paid and who does not get paid. That's Congress's job. And Democrats have refused to fund the Department of Homeland Security at a time of heightened danger to the American traveling public. And it's not just folks in the airports. It's people partying down on 6th Street who were victims of a radicalized immigrant who decided to attack them as a demonstration of his radical ideology. So this is dangerous, and the Democrats need to quit holding these TSA agents hostage. They haven't been paid. They've missed one partial paycheck and another complete paycheck. And what we did today is just offer them a token of our appreciation by delivering some Whataburgers to them. It seems like such a modest thing to do, inconsequential, but it really demonstrates the importance of us getting the Democrats in Congress to fund the Transportation Security Agency, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and other components of the Department of Homeland Security. happy to answer it.
Can't there be some reforms to how ICE and Homeland Security operate?
We can talk about that after the payment. People start getting paid again. Those debates will not end when they get paid. But it just means we won't be holding these poor people hostage who have nothing to say about what those reforms will look like.
Senator, what's your reaction to the congressman and his allegations saying we put these offers out, the Republican said no in regards to piecemeal? Is there a compromise in play? Can't we find a compromise?
There should not be any compromise when it comes to paying our law enforcement agencies the money they've earned. We can have these debates endlessly, and we do, but saying that we're not going to pay TSA or ICE or the Federal Emergency Management Agency until we get what we want is really a disgrace and something I think needs to be called out.
And a follow-up on that in regards to you're a judge, you have a legal background. What they're asking for basically is an open border strategy, isn't it? It's they open the border, now they don't want to enforce the border laws with what they're calling for. Is that your
Well, we had 4 years of open borders under the Biden administration, and now we're having to deal with people who are already here in the United States. And we know this is a problem here in Austin and New York and elsewhere where people have become radicalized who are already here in the United States thanks to those open border policies. So this is a much bigger issue than just what happens here at the airport, although this is an important part of it. But I'm here to say it is absolutely unacceptable and disgraceful to refuse to pay these American patriots for when they're doing their job keeping us safe, and to say we're going to hold you hostage over our political demands is completely unacceptable.
What is the latest on President Trump and whether he's going to endorse in this race? Have you talked to him recently?
I don't have any updates for you on that.
Senator,
any other questions?
Yeah, Senator, have you learned anything about the TSA situation here in terms of staffing, people calling out sick? What's actually happening here in Austin?
Well, I just talked to the head of the TSA here in Austin, and thankfully these brave men and women are doing their job and not calling in sick and not quitting. But at some point, when you're not getting your paycheck, people are going to have to look for ways to support their families, and which means they'll be leaving the TSA for other employment, and that's unacceptable.
Well, Senator, if people are calling out sick, how come they're in the lines then? Isn't it a staffing problem?
Say again?
If people are not calling out sick here, why are there the long lines in the morning then? I thought that was related to staffing.
Well, it's called spring break. It's called South by Southwest. There's just a lot of demand for the traveling public, and they're doing the best they can, and I think doing an admirable job here in Austin. But we've seen the long lines at other airports around Texas and around the country, and those are a direct cause of this refusal to pay these good people for their paycheck for what they've earned.
President, what's the latest on the
warrants? Why is what they're asking for with going with the warrants a bad idea?
Well, because many of these people have already received all their due process. They've appealed their immigration court decisions and lost, but refused to leave. So it's a civil proceeding. It's not a criminal proceeding. So creating another obstacle and requiring you to go to court to prove a crime is really irrelevant, and it's unnecessary and will further impede enforcement of our immigration laws, which I think is actually their goal.
Thank you, Russ. That's all we have time for.